Positive Anime Reviews is a review show that is designed for people who aren't very picky about their anime, like me. Most anime I watch ends up in my 5 out of 5 category. My reviews are for those people who are looking for a reason to enjoy anime rather than hate on it. I am willing to give any and all anime a chance before stating my opinion. Lastly, my reviews are all my opinion and might and or most likely won't match yours. If you don't agree, that's totally fine, just be respectful in the comment section, thank you. And as always, there is sometimes a spoiler section, but fear not, I will warn you first. Hey guys, Darth Thoric here, back with another positive anime review. Today we will be talking about Kashimashi Girl Meets Girl. I hope I said that right. I mean, it looks pretty straightforward to me, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, also the OVA. The OVA is, you know, it's we're going to tack it on at the end. It'll be important. Anyway, welcome to another Shoujo Ai / Yuri anime. I am on a kick recently. I think my last couple or several par reviews were all Shoujo Ai stuff, and because clearly I'm in a mood, and the marathon is not over yet. We'll leave it at that. The marathon is not over yet. Anyway, so sorry, I was just drinking. Anywho, so welcome to Kashimashi Girl Meets Girl. So this is a classic one. This is actually one that I own physically, and it's good. It's good. Hopping right into our first section. Obviously, we've talked about which one we are reviewing. As far as when this aired, now this is a classic one. I believe I don't remember what the last review I did was. What was the last par review I did? Hang on. Quick. On the fly, we're going to look this up. Hang on. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, so my last one was obviously Season 2 of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, but before that was Strawberry Panic. And Strawberry Panic, I believe, was like 2006, something like that. Well, this is actually another one. This is actually right on that same line because this aired in January of 2006 to March of 2006. So this is also kind of going back in time just a hair, and hopping into, this is just going back in time just a hair, which I almost think that Strawberry Panic was also 2006, I think. So, you know, we're watching all the old classics. Now, I don't actually know if there is a dub for this one. I feel like most anime, a lot of anime have dubs, I feel like, so that there might be. I didn't watch it, so if there is, I didn't watch it, couldn't tell you. But is this, as far as the source, this is a adaptation from a manga, which I should read the manga. That might be a pretty good idea. Anyway, so apparently this is an adaptation from a manga. I have not read the manga, but maybe I should give it a shot. So, moving into our synopsis first thing. It'll be way easier than having me explain it. So, Hazumu was a shy boy who enjoyed gardening, collecting herbs, and long walks in the mountains. One day, he finally worked up the courage to confess his love to Yasuna, but she rejected him. Depressed, he wandered up Mount Kashimayama, if that's how you say that, maybe, the place where they first met, to reconsider his feelings. After getting lost, he wished upon a shooting star and received a bizarre twist of fate. Now he is a she, and she stumbles headfirst back into social life and relationships, only to find that the entire landscape has changed. So, that is a true synopsis, but it's a little bit simplified. So obviously Hazumu at the beginning of this is a boy, and obviously the synopsis does cover that. He confessed to Yasuna. It didn't go well, and so he was depressed, went up into the mountains. Well, he did what he wished upon was he thought was a shooting star. It was not. It was actually an alien spaceship like crashing to Earth, and it clocked him, and it just like crushed the life out of him. And then the aliens because they accidentally killed an Earthling, they almost killed him regardless. Anyway, they had to put him back together. So they brought him back, but something went wrong while they were putting him back together, and they flipped some like whatever chromosomes or whatever, and he became a she. So it's a gender bender. So which there are a few gender bender anime, which I believe that's the name of the genre. I'm pretty sure, and they're always a good time. Anyway, and so yeah, and then otherwise this is just a romance. I mean, otherwise, it's a very, very straightforward. So moving on to our rating, how clean or dirty is the anime? Pretty clean. The site gives it a PG-13. I would pretty much stick by that. There's like, I don't know, I mean, it's pretty vanilla. It's not like there's a lot of language flying around. It's not like there's like a whole bunch of just like grotesque nudity or blood and gore. It's pretty mild. So I wouldn't super worry about it, but maybe you wouldn't want like whatever your young kids watching it, I guess. I don't know. So it's very mild. The PG-13 seems fine, I suppose. But as far as us moving on to our genre, because technically in my reviews there's actually under rating, the next section is actually similar anime, which if an anime comes to mind that's like very similar to the one that we are reviewing, then I will mention it. I rarely do, because most of the time nothing jumps out, but there's a few anime that I might watch which has very strong vibes towards another specific anime, and so whenever that time does happen where like it's like, oh yeah, this reminds me of this, then I'll mention it. Otherwise I almost always skip the section because nothing specific comes to mind enough that it's worth mentioning. So that's usually what happens with that. Anyway, moving on to genre, obviously this is a romance, so it's comedy, drama, shoujo ai, romance, slice of life. It's very, very not surprising stuff there. Yeah, very, very not surprising stuff there, that's for sure. Now, moving on to season length, how long is it? So this one is your standard 12 episodes, but the OVA is 1 episode, and the OVA, keep in mind that it's actually really just the 13th episode. So really, you could think of it like it's 13 episodes, but the main season is 12, and then the OVA is really just the 13th episode, and that's just 1. But the episode length is very, very normal, approximately 24 minutes per episode. I do not recall there ever being anything after the closing song, as far as like other scenes or anything go. I don't recall that being a thing. As always, I do encourage you to double check me, but if you're at all worried, double check me. But I don't recall doing it. I checked the first few episodes, nothing happened, and so then I didn't bother checking the rest, and that's usually what happens. And sometimes if I'm concerned, or if they reference something in the next episode, then I'll make sure to hop back and double check. But I don't recall I ever saw anything. Now, the only sort of exception is the 12th episode, because in the 12th episode, the closing song, if memory serves, wasn't super normal. It was just like a quick little... It wasn't like super, super normal. It was like a quick, I'm trying to think what the word is. It was like showing like credits and stuff, but there was like scenes happening, so it wasn't like your standard closing song. So, but regardless, I don't recall there ever being anything after the rest of the closing songs. So yeah, nothing there. So moving on to our character list. Now, the character list in this one is interesting. It's not like super dense and not super populated. You only really have 3 main characters, and then you have a slew of supporting characters. Now, some of these supporting characters are really cool and worth bringing up and worth talking about. And then other ones you're just like shrug or whatever. So, but our main characters, and obviously that's what's most important. So our very first main character, the quote unquote primary main character, we have Hazumu. So Hazumu is of course is the former boy, now girl, that is the main star of the anime. And Hazumu is a very interesting character. So Hazumu, like as far as what she looks like, I don't. Oh man, what color hair is that? That's the real question. Anyway, it's like. Brown, maybe? Is it brown? Is it red? I don't know. Anyway, she's the one that's no doubt front and center of any kind of art I was able to find. Anyway, so Hazumu is a pretty quiet character. Altogether. I mean, before and after when he was a he, and then later on when he was a she, obviously personality wise, you're not any different. So anyway, and so Hazumu is a very quiet character. In the beginning, I mean, there's lots of traits when he is a he, he's very much more delicate. He's not like delicate. What's what I'm looking for? He's not like the most like, I don't know, manliest, for lack of a better description, of men. You know what I mean? He very much has that more gentle, more effeminate kind of vibe, even in the beginning. And so it was kind of meant to be. But then even after, obviously, all the events happened, and then when he is a she, then she is very, I don't know, then it's I mean, her personality is very much the same, but she's much better as a girl than she was as a boy. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it makes way more sense, and it's much more right, I feel like. And I don't think that was that much of a secret of the anime. But otherwise, Hazumu very much cares a whole lot about her group of friends, and she cares a whole lot about, about the people around her. Some flaws is she has troubles making decisions, and I'll warn you right off the bat. Now, this is not a spoiler, because this is very obvious, very, very, very early in the anime. So I'm not going to make this. It's not a spoiler, but there is a love triangle going on. Kind of situation, and our three main characters are caught in the middle of it all. And so, I mean, it's about them. That's what this anime is about, is that love triangle and that relationship. And so Hazumu has a hard time making decisions, and it makes life complicated for him and for everyone around him, or really her later on, I guess, for her and everyone around her. And so, it's something. There's quite a bit of drama that floats around because of Hazumu and her inability to make decisions, and then other things too. There's quite a bit of drama that gets flown around, and obviously Hazumu is the dead center of it all. And so it is quite interesting. Now, yeah, and so it is quite interesting, and that's really what the anime is about, is that love triangle and that relationship. Otherwise, Hazumu was very likable. I mean, other than the inability to decide and the drama that it caused, other than that, Hazumu was very, very likable. She's very sweet, very cute, and she was definitely born to be a girl. Even if it was initially she was a boy, it just was not right. I mean, you know what I mean? I think she was more comfortable, like, in a girl's shoes. You know what I mean? Than she was when she was a he. I feel like, he is a better she than he was a he, if that makes sense. It's kind of a mouthful, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so that's pretty much Hazumu. Very gentle, very, like, she, loves gardening and loves taking care of things, and she's, very, very, very feminine. Even as a boy she was, and then when she was a she, then it just made way more sense, and she was much more comfortable, I feel like. Anyway, and that's pretty much Hazumu. So moving on to our next main character, we have Tamari. So Tamari is the sporty, more tomboy one of the three in our love triangle, and Tamari is the blonde. I believe that's mostly blonde hair, maybe. Anyway, and so Tamari was best friends with Hazumu since they were little kids. And Tamari is tough. Tamari is sporty. Tamari's a tomboy, and as kids she was always defending Hazumu, because obviously Hazumu was quick to cry and was always quick to, things like that. Hazumu got picked on. Well, Tamari was always there to defend him because she was very tough and she was very tomboy-like, you know what I mean? And so Tamari is very interesting because she seriously cares about Hazumu, and although she is very tough, she does not have that tsundere feeling that a lot of tougher characters sometimes do in anime. She does not have that tsundere thing going on overly much. She has maybe some tsundere moments, but it's not like, I wouldn't say it's the defining trait of her character or anything. So Tamari obviously cares a lot for Hazumu, and there's other really good things about her, that although, she's not always as quick to express what she's feeling as maybe it would be nice if she was, she's not the worst I've seen with that either. And so she's fairly forthcoming when when something needs to be said, you know what I mean? She's fairly forthcoming and not the worst offender I've ever seen with not admitting things. Anyway, and so Tamari's a cool character, and even though her and Yasuna are, which we'll talk about in a second, compete for Hazumu's love, they don't, I mean, for the most part, they were very kind with each other about things. You know what I mean? It was not like a bloodbath. And there is other anime where there is like a love triangle situation, and it's kind of like ripping out the throat of the other person. It's pretty dog eat dog. And in this case, I did like it because Tamari and Yasuna, for the most part, after some events that I won't spoil, they were very kind to each other, and they were very like, look, I know you like her, I like her too, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was much more of a, like, nothing personal, but I like her too, you know what I mean? And I really liked that. I liked their peaceful, more peaceful for the most part, dynamic there, and I think that was really cool. And I really like Tamari, and we'll talk more about who my favorites and stuff are in the favorite section in the next section. But that's pretty much Tamari. So So moving on to our final main character, we have Yasuna. So Yasuna is the other and the third member of our little love triangle here. Now Yasuna is interesting. Yasuna is an interesting character because something interesting is that Hazumu, when she was a he, confessed to Yasuna originally, and she turned him down. Now it's kind of this whole, it's a whole bit, and it's part of the whole plot, and I'm not going to spoil all of that, but it is an interesting plot in the anime, to be sure. But Yasuna is the dark, I think it's black hair character that you might be seeing on screen, no doubt. Now Yasuna is interesting because she cannot see men. Like, they look like fuzzy outlines to her. She can't see them. I don't totally know why. I don't know. Just don't look too deeply, okay? Just don't look too deeply. Take it at face value. You'd be like, okay, sure, she can't see men. They're like fuzzy, blurry outlines. Got it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why it does. I don't feel like it was explained overly much as to why, like, how this is possible. But don't look too deeply. Just enjoy it at face value. Whatever. She can't see men. So Yasuna is an interesting character because she feels very delicate in kind of a different way than Hazumu does in some ways, because Yasuna is mostly very, I bit my tongue again. Ow. Anyway, Yasuna is very, very tender, but obviously very feminine too, but Hazumu feels delicate in some ways that, like, where Yasuna doesn't so much. She feels more gentle over delicate, if that distinction kind of makes any sense. But Yasuna also cares a whole lot for Hazumu, and the plot will develop, and it'll explain a little more about her. But she also cares deeply for Hazumu, and she's also very kind to Tamari, even though, I mean, again, minus some events. She is very kind to Tamari about their relationship, even though that they're both kind of competing for Hazumu's affection. They mostly weren't cruel to each other about things, and Yasuna was just as friendly as Tamari was, which was really very noble, I would say. But Yasuna is an interesting character because the OVA is very interesting in its events, and I might actually briefly talk about that, but I'll wait till the spoiler section because I think I need to talk about the ending, and so at least a little bit, and it might spoil things, and so I'm not going to talk about it yet. But we'll probably have a spoiler section for a change, and I'll talk about the OVA a little bit more in that section. But anywho. But otherwise, I mean, there's not too much to say. I mean, Yasuna is kind, and she likes Hazumu, and it's all fine. It's all, you kind of have to decide who you ship or whatever. And we'll talk about who I ship in the favorite character section, no doubt. But anyway, otherwise she's kind of simple. I mean, she's very, like, good with music, and she's very, and she's very kind, and she likes Hazumu, and I don't know. I mean, she's a fine character. I don't have a problem with her overly much. But otherwise, that's kind of it for the main characters. So there is a few supporting characters. There is Ayuki. Ayuki is a supporting character. She's a friend she's one of the group, she's mostly Tamari's friend, but she is a friend of all of them, really. And she's interesting because she's a very kind of a wise character. And Ayuki's and she's wearing glasses, I think, and she's like shorter, darker hair, but it might be, I don't think it's black though. Anyway, whatever. I don't even know if I'll be able to find art of her, to be honest, and so I'm not gonna go super heavy because she's a supporting character, but I think she was a really cool character because she was very, like, trying to help people out, but she didn't want to get involved, and she didn't want to step out, I mean, using her words, she doesn't like to step out onto the stage. She likes to help out, and she likes to observe, but she doesn't like to necessarily be too involved. But there's lots of times where she was there to help people out when they needed it, and she was very cool. She was very wise. She was a very wise character, and there's lots of things that she said where she was like she's like the Yoda of this anime, and it was very cool. Otherwise, there's a slew of other characters. There is Asada. Asada is Hazumu's friend. And he, for quite a while, I think, and they were like bros until, of course, Hazumu became a girl, and then Asada is mostly comic relief, but he crushes on Hazumu, and otherwise he was fine. I didn't have a problem with him. Now, as far as, and I think that's pretty much it. There's not too much to say. But moving on to our favorite / most hated characters. Now, in this one, I do have characters I really dislike. So my favorites are Tamari. I love Tamari, and I ship Hazumu and Tamari a lot. I ship Hazumu and Tamari a lot. I think that they are great together, and I think that they're better together than Yasuna and Hazumu. I do like Yasuna as a character, but I do think Tamari and Hazumu are far better for each other. And so those two are my favorite, Hazumu and Tamari. I really like Tamari. Now, as far as most hated, the parents, Hazumu's parents are weird. Especially the dad. The dad, like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. He kind of like crushes on Hazumu after she's a girl. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, I didn't like him. He was just weird and cringy. But as far as a character that was even worse than him was actually the teacher. Their teacher is only there for comic relief, and I mean, it's just like the dad, actually. The dad and the mom of Hazumu, and then the school teacher are all three there for comic relief mostly. And then Asada is there too, but he's like comic relief in a mostly non-cringy way, whereas the parents and then the teacher were there in almost purely cringy kind of comic relief, and it was not great. I did not like them. Anytime they were on screen, I was mildly annoyed. And so it's not terrible, but like I was just like, oh my god, just like, I just wanted them to get off screen so we could get back to the relationship stuff. But otherwise, this anime is far more heavy than anything else, and so the comic relief stuff is thrown in because otherwise it would be pure like seriousness, and there's a lot of drama with the relationship stuff, and so they do it because they to try and help keep it fluffy, because there's lots of heavy moments in the anime where like your feels are gonna hurt a little, and so they throw the comic relief stuff in because I feel like that maybe they were worried they had to balance it out because it's too heavy. But like otherwise, I didn't like the comic relief characters. I didn't like any of them. Other than Asada was mostly was almost purely comic relief, but he was less cringy than the other three, and so it was not nearly as annoying to me. Anyway, otherwise, there's two aliens as well. I didn't even mention them. There's two aliens. I didn't have that much of an opinion on them. They're just whatever. I mean, they're part of the plot. I don't care. Anyway, but otherwise, moving on to animation and music. So keep in mind that this is, of course, from 2006. So the music, I felt like, was fine. I don't think it was particularly noteworthy, but it wasn't obviously terrible. I think it was fine. But the animation is a tad dated. It's not bad, and it certainly does its job, and it's very pretty, and it's pretty enough, and it does fine. And it's certainly not worth docking any score over, but it is from 2006. So, the animation can only do so much, and it is fine, and it totally does its job. And I didn't, other than noticing when you first like open the anime, and I think like, oh yeah, man, this art style is definitely from 2006 or whatever. But otherwise, like, it didn't detract it like from the anime. And it's not like I was any less invested, and so in like the story and the relationships and stuff, and so it's fine. It's just something to keep in mind that the animation it is from 2006, so you kind of get what you get. Anyway, otherwise, though, I think that's pretty much everything. So moving on to final rating and recommendation, I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5. Very good. This anime made no mistakes worth noting and is definitely worth a buy. So the OVA will be getting the same rating as well, also a 5 out of 5. I just sort of piled them in together because the OVA is really just the 13th episode, pretty much. It's just the 13th episode, and so that's where the real closure is, and so that's actually where the real ending is. And so if you watch just until episode 12 of the anime, if you watch just until episode 12, things are not going to be great for you. I'm not going to spoil it yet because we're not technically in the spoiler section yet, but they're not going to be great for you. And so the 13th episode, the OVA, you just really have to watch it just so you can get a ending. Otherwise it might not be awesome. So, anyway, and so yeah, that's pretty much it. But for once, we actually need to move on into our spoiler section, and so, which is surprising because I almost never have to do a spoiler section. Normally I save a spoiler section for if the anime is bad, but this might be the first time where I had to do it, where I wanted to do a spoiler section where the anime was good. I just had some things to say. So that should probably give you guys enough time to bail if you're not interested in spoilers. Okay, so so now that we're in the spoiler section. Okay, so the OVA is really, like I said, the 13th episode. So there's lots, like I said, there's lots of feels in the anime. There's lots of drama on the angst front because of the relationships. And Hazumu has a hard time deciding between Yasuna and Tamari. I totally see his logic, or I mean, really her logic, sorry. I totally see her logic and why she has a hard time choosing, because I often too have a hard time choosing things in life. But it does make, there's lots of drama involved, and Tamari and Yasuna are mostly very kind to each other, but after a certain point, there is a miscommunication and misimpressions, for lack of a better word, if that's even a word. And they both suddenly think that the other one is two-timing, and, like, even though they try to keep things platonic and to not hurt, like, you know, Hazumu, and then some drama kicks off, like in, like, the whatever 10th episode or something. And so if it feels bad, there's lots of angst because Tamari initially gets rejected. At the very end of it all, Tamari gets rejected, and it really felt bad. It did not feel very good, dude. Tamari's heartbroken. I'm heartbroken for her, and it was not awesome. And Hazumu chose Yasuna at like the 12th episode or whatever, or 11th or 12th episode, and Tamari it just feels bad, dude. She just kind of gets shafted, and she's heartbroken, and it feels terrible. Well, then in the 12th episode, at the end of it all, like I mean, at the very end of the anime, like, I mean, you know, Hazumu did choose Yasuna, but then, like, it showed, like, maybe some time went by, and it was suddenly just, like, over, and it was, like, cut him off, like, mid-sentence. Like, they kind of, like, separated hands, and it looked like she was about to, like, Yasuna was about to tell Hazumu something that was gonna be, like, whatever, like, I don't think I need this anymore, or whatever. But, like, she didn't even say anything. She's like, you know, and she just, like, looks at him, and then it just ends, and you're like, what the hell was that? Like, that's not an ending? Like, what happened? And so then I looked it up again, and I'm like, okay, like, what the hell? Where's the ending? I swore I remember that's not what happened, and then turns out that's not what happened. So then it's that's what the OVA is for, because the OVA is the actual ending. The OVA takes place, I think, 4 months after that whole drama. Well, Yasuna actually dumps Hazumu, and she learns to kind of do her own thing. That she doesn't think she needs him. She needs Hazumu anymore, and she decides that she wants to be single, and she wants to move on, and she wants to do other things. Well, then Hazumu has been trying to ask Tamari out, but Tamari's obviously bitter from getting rejected the first time, and so she's angry, and then so that's what that 13th OVA episode is about, is Hazumu and Tamari getting together. And so for me, that was of course fantastic, because they're so right together, and I do ship them a lot, and I don't super care for Yasuna and Hazumu. It's all about Tamari and Hazumu. And so that's what that 13th episode is about, is them getting together, and it does end in a happily ever after, and it is fantastic. But there is lots of feels in this one, so it kind of hits a little hard, and there's the angst in this one can be a little bit painful, not gonna lie, but mostly it's a good one. I definitely think 5 out of 5. I mean, the angst is a little heavy, and it's a little bit old, but it's very, very good. And but otherwise, that's it. So that's the spoiler section. I just wanted to drop you a few lines about the OVA and the endings and stuff. But otherwise, that is it. So, yeah. And so I do definitely recommend the anime. It is very much a good time. And, yeah. And so the Shoujo Ai, for some reason, marathon continues. Because I won't tell you what I'm watching, but suffice it to say, it's another Shoujo Ai. As far as right now. Because I've actually already chosen the next anime I'm going to watch. And I started episode 1 last night. So, and so, yeah, my next one is already going. And it's another Shoujo Ai. And you'll find out which one it is once I review it, but it's already in the works and it's already going, so that's pretty spicy. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much the show. So yeah, I would talk about uploads and stuff, but this is at the time of recording this, it's not going to be going up yet, so I'm not going to bother talking about uploads or anything because it might not matter by the time you get to it. So yeah, otherwise that's it. So that is going to call for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and we will talk to you guys later.